And it is time for Okaloosa Eye on Crime, and we have multiple cases where we're hoping someone out there might have information that can help us solve some of these local crimes.
That's right, and it includes a fatal hit-and-run crash on Highway 98, a deadly shooting near Fort Walton Beach, and a Walton County cold case murder. So let's get started.
First up is that deadly hit-and-run. The Florida Highway Patrol is still asking for information about a hit-and-run crash that left 44-year-old Joshua Kreiser dead. The collision occurred about 2 years ago on December 30th at 8 p.m. as Kreiser was walking along U.S. Highway 98 near East Timberlake Drive in Okaloosa. Now, a white vehicle traveling west in the inside lane of traffic struck Kreiser, then fled the scene. Anyone with information, of course, you can contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. Remember, we have 863-TIPS, emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or the P3-TIPS mobile app. And I would also like to say, you know, I speak to Joshua's mother quite often, and she really just wants some closure in this case, to know what happened. You know, 2 years later, she's still very devastated.
There's clues out there that someone's aware of, so hopefully that will happen. Next up, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office deputies responded to 2016 Hickory Street near Fort Walton Beach 2 years ago on the evening of December 15th, and they found 28-year-old Kreskin Robinson inside a vehicle in the driveway of the residence, dead from an apparent gunshot wound. So that's been a mystery up to this point, but we're hoping someone out there's got some information. You can call 850-651-7400 for the Sheriff's Office, or of course Crime Stoppers, 863-TIPS, emeraldcoastcrimestoppers.com, or the popular P3-TIPS mobile application.
Next up, Walton County Sheriff's Office investigators are still searching for answers in a 2004 homicide. On August 14th, a farmer discovered the remains of Manuel Mosquedo Ruiz on the edge of Magnolia Lodge Road, just off of Highway 3280. Now, investigators believe Ruiz was last seen around convenience stores in the Freeport area, but his whereabouts leading up to the murder remain a mystery. Ruiz was from Mexico, had only been in the country for about 1 month, and was working odd jobs in the construction field in both Freeport and Atlanta, and apparently kind of traveled back and forth. And an autopsy revealed that he had been shot to death and then tossed there on the side of the road. So anybody that may have information so many years later, but of course we never give up hope, and we hope that somebody has some information, you can provide that to the Walton County Sheriff's Office, or of course anonymously to Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
That's right. Next up, on December 2nd of 2022, the two individuals in these photos are believed to have burglarized a vehicle on Nautica Way in Destin. The very next day, as is typical, they were seen on video using victims' credit cards at Target in Destin. So if you've got any info on this, contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. You can do it anonymously. And remember, as we always say, lock your car, take your keys, and hide your belongings. These crimes are preventable.
Yeah, and it seems like we keep saying that over and over and over
Somebody's
again.
Listening, though. You know,
yes,
there's people that are listening.
Hopefully. Well, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office Special Response Team, which includes members from the Fort Walton Beach Police Department and Okaloosa EMS, gets called out to the most dangerous types of calls, from armed barricaded subjects to hostage situations, so keeping their skills honed is imperative.
That's exactly right, and they do train each month, but they also get together once a year for a full week of intense training, and they're focusing on resolving the worst case scenarios without anyone being injured.
So Monday through Friday, we all have normal jobs. You know, we are in investigations, we're on patrol, we are on street crimes. You know, we have a bunch of guys assigned all over the agency that have their normal Monday through Friday or even Saturday and Sunday jobs. But every year, once a year, we come out here for a full week and get 40 hours worth of training in, specific to SRT, specific to SWAT. We train on how to use chemical munitions. We train on, obviously, shooting. We train on how to do entries into a house. We train on barricaded subjects, hostage scenarios, all of those various things. We do waterborne operations, all that stuff throughout the year. This week is really more about getting back to the basics, getting all that stuff ingrained into us, so that way we can set ourselves up for success in the future. Our team is comprised of members from the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office and from Fort Walton Beach Police Department currently, also from Okaloosa County EMS. We have 2 members on our team from Okaloosa County EMS. So Monday through Friday, we all have normal jobs. You know, we are in investigations, we're on patrol, we are on street crimes. You know, we have a bunch of guys assigned all over the agency. Everybody that's out here is motivated to be on the team. They had to go through a selection process. They had to try out for the team. I think the most challenging part, it depends. I think some days it's the physical, some days it is the mental. Every situation is a little bit different, but really it's a mixture of both. You have to be mentally and physically prepared for every situation that we come across.
And now, as we always have on the show, we're going to go down our first list of wanted fugitives. And of course, they are wanted as of today's taping date, which is December 13th, 2022. So let's get right into it. First up is a new face to the show. That's Shauna Raylene Afterkirk. She's 27 years old. She's wanted for felony violation of probation for possession of a controlled substance, providing false information to a pawnbroker, as well as grand theft. Last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Michael David Tennis was also last known to live in the Fort Walton Beach area on North Bill Extension. He's wanted for multiple felony violations of probation warrants.
Deputies are still looking for Ann Margaret Mary Marsh for failure to appear for theft and elderly abuse.
Jiren Michael McCoy is wanted for violation of probation for both burglary and grand theft.
60-year-old William Connell Burrell wanted for failure to appear for possession of a weapon by a convicted felon and possession of narcotics, last known to live on Hurlburt Road in Fort Walton Beach.
The last known address for Donald Joe Mitchell was in Navarre. He's 69 years old and he's wanted for DUI and driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked.
Tad Keith Bowers is wanted for violation of probation on the original charge of child neglect.
Next up is Clifton Ray Edwards. He's wanted for felony VOP for carrying a concealed weapon.
Next one is wanted for arson. That's 39-year-old Zachary Lee Dalton.
This is Sean Michael Sanders, and Sanders wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest, that is, without violence, possession of a controlled substance, possession of narcotics equipment, and fraud.
Next up is another new face. That's Christian Devontae Nix. He's 21 years old. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement, operating a vehicle without a license, and destroying evidence. Last known to live on 4th Avenue in Shalimar.
And contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers if you have any information on where to find Angela Dawn Tripp. She's wanted for failure to appear for exploitation of the elderly and was last known to live on Crown Creek Circle in Crestview.
Scott Daniel Sconyers, last known to live in Destin. He's wanted for violation of probation for DUI, as well as fleeing and eluding.
And this is Anthony Michael Frodelli, who's wanted for VOP for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker. Last known address, Fort Walton Beach.
Last on our first list is Brandon Dalton West, who we don't have a photo of, but he's 31 years old, and he is wanted for sexual assault.
And moving on, it may sound glamorous, but being a member of the OCSO dive team can be strenuous and put you out of your comfort zone, especially when the water's 52 degrees and the current is ripping.
That's right, but members of the dive team weathered the cold water, cold temps, and the current on November 20th to help recover an SUV reported stolen in the city of Crestview in the waters of the Yellow River.
So yesterday, the security forces on Eglin requested assistance because someone had found or had seen a vehicle underwater near one of the boat ramps off of Rattlesnake Bluff Road. And at the time, they weren't sure if the vehicle was occupied by anyone or not. So the dive team, some members of the dive team, myself included, responded out there to assess the vehicle and then aid with the recovery. My dive partner and I, we swam out to where the vehicle was, and then we dove and ensured that there was, first of all, nobody was inside the vehicle. Had there been remains to recover, we would have had to document the entire vehicle plus the position of the remains as they were found, and then recover the remains, and then we can move forward with recovering the vehicle.
Okay, so luckily nobody inside, but you still your mission wasn't over at that point, was it?
No, at that point, because the vehicle still needed to be recovered and needed to be taken out of the water, and so my dive partner and I rigged the vehicle to be taken out by a couple of wreckers and a bobcat that were on shore.
How long were you in that cold water, do you think?
Probably altogether about an hour.
And what was that experience like?
It's a little cool. It was a little cool. The 5 mil wetsuits that we were wearing, they do pretty good about keeping you warmer in the cooler temperature waters. My dive partner was wearing his hood. I wasn't wearing a hood. Those things, they're not exactly comfortable to wear. So I just dealt with the cold and we did it. The one thing about cold water is it does make you breathe a little faster. And so you really have to be mindful of your air consumption when you're underwater. Yeah, the water temp yesterday was 52 degrees. And when I first got certified in December a couple of years ago, Our certification dives were in Choctaw Bay, and that was 52, 53 degree water at that time too. If you're not properly insulated, like if you're wearing a thin, wet, like a 3 mil suit, or maybe you're not wearing an undergarment under your 5 mil, there is a chance you could accelerate hypothermia, which, if you start going into hypothermia underwater, that turns into a pretty bad situation for you and your dive partner. So when you compound the cold water with the rushing current that we had to work in yesterday was kind of a tricky dive.
Now, just a week after members of the dive team braved the Yellow River to help recover that sunken SUV that had been reported again stolen out of Crestview, they were back at it again. Same river, different vehicle.
Yep, a silver Nissan pickup had been reported stolen from a home on Sundance Way in Holt. And a short time later, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office received a call for a welfare check after someone spotted what they thought was a flipped boat in the Yellow River of Log Lake Road.
Thankfully, there was no body inside, but the submerged object did turn out to be the stolen Nissan, and members of the dive team once again helped get that stolen vehicle back on dry land. And once again, we're asking with anybody with information on these stolen vehicles to please contact the Sheriff's Office or Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers. Take a look. Okay, we hope to be hearing from somebody on that stuff, but in the meantime, we're also looking for a list of Victoria Hibberts, and Hibberts is wanted for VOP for child neglect and possession of cocaine, and she was last known to live over in Pensacola.
Still looking for 37-year-old Janelle Eileen Navarro. She's wanted for felony violation of probation for 4 counts of sell, manufacture, or deliver narcotics.
Unfortunately, we do not have a picture available of Charles Louis Craig, but he's 60 years old and he is wanted for sexual assault.
We do have a photo of 80-year-old J. William Shutter, who's wanted for felony child neglect.
Kelly Lynn Abbott is wanted for felony grand theft and contracting without a license.
28-year-old Cheyenne Lee Gentry is wanted for violation of probation for possession of methamphetamine, last known to live on Oak Terrace Drive up in Crestview.
No photo available for Kaishan Dinoshki Campbell, a 34-year-old black male wanted for lewd and lascivious behavior and cruelty toward a child.
James Clinton Brinkley Jr., who's 63, he's wanted for violation of probation for battery, last known to live over in Pensacola.
Justin Rafael Diaz is wanted for felony possession of meth with intent to sell and possession of heroin, last known address in Destin.
Another one without a photo, but that's 44-year-old Kelvin Paul Michael Weiss, and he's wanted for sexual battery.
Next up is Joseph Lee Fairchild. Fairchild's wanted for VOP for aggravated assault.
46-year-old David Allen Bobbitt, and he's wanted for fraud.
This is Thomas Edward Allison, and Allison's wanted for failure to appear for aggravated assault on a person 65 or older, last known to live in Destin.
Tobin Dean Collins, who was last known to live on Yacht Club Drive in Fort Walton Beach, he's wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender.
Daniel Robert Turner O'Rourke, wanted for felony FTA for grand theft and criminal mischief, and O'Rourke's last known address was in Crestview. And take a look at Jerry Daniel Beaver, 54-year-old, that is white male, wanted for VOP for possession of meth and driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked.
And wrapping up this list is Coretta LaDon James, who's wanted for failure to appear for grand theft and fraud, last known to live on Wilson Street in Crestview.
And moving on to some good news, Sheriff Aiden and members of the OCSO stopped by Step One Automotive's Subaru store in Fort Walton Beach to help load up literally hundreds of children's gifts that were donated by employees for the OCSO Angel Tree program.
That's right. It took a trailer and some Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office pickup trucks to be able to handle their amazing generosity for local kids in need.
Dara, our corporate event manager, she sent us out a list. She sent out an email saying that they had 86 children still without sponsors. So our store took 20. We ended up with 24. Our store took 20 and our Ford store took 20. Yeah, I think when we got the list of children, it really kind of impacted all of us as far as knowing how blessed we are. And we just wanted to pay it forward.
You just went all out.
I think we kind of did a little bit, and a lot of it is, you know, when you start reading children that are asking for soap and shampoo and things like that, it really hits you in the heart. Like, that's the thing. If that's what they're asking for, then their need must be pretty great.
And to add to that, OCSO's Star Charity has been chosen as one of only 2 local charities to be a recipient of Subaru's Share the Love event, and that's where a vehicle purchase or vehicle service can help fund donations for that charity. If you want to know more about it, you can go to sheriff-okaloosa.org and check it out.
That's great.
Now we're moving on to some more people that are on the run that we're hoping to locate. And first up on this list is Michael Edward Leahy. Do not have a picture available, but he's a 37-year-old white male wanted for felony hit and run with injuries. Last known address was Dune Lakes Circle in Santa Rosa Beach.
40-year-old David Richard Abbott. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting without violence and possession of controlled substance.
Leon Leslie Chandler is wanted for VOP for driving with a license that had been suspended or revoked and possession of a weapon or ammo by a convicted felon.
Another one with no photo, but that's Timothy Tyler Turner. He's 29. He's wanted for sexual battery and lewd and lascivious molestation, last known to live on Red Barrel Road up in Baker.
Brian Castillo is 26 years old, and he's wanted for failure to appear for lewd behavior with a victim between the ages of 12 and 14. His last known address was on Tyner Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Another new addition to this month's show is Keyshawn D. Campbell. He's 34 years old. He's wanted for lewd and lascivious behavior, cruelty towards a child, and possession of obscene material.
And here's a Niceville PD case. It involves Michelle Alicia Fortson. She's wanted by them for felony grand theft and passing forged checks.
Back to Okaloosa County, it's 27-year-old Carson Ray Allen, wanted for felony failure to appear for battery of a law enforcement officer or firefighter, last known to live on Harbor Boulevard in Destin.
And we're hoping you have info on where to find Blake Elliott Gundred. He's wanted for VOP for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker. And Anjali Johnson's been on our list for quite a while. She's wanted for aggravated battery, and last known address was Mixon Road in Defuniak Springs.
43-year-old Timothy Ryan McDonald. He's wanted for felony violation of probation for burglary as well as theft, last known to live on Oxford Court in Mariester.
Contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers if you know where to find Christine Chadwick. There is no picture available, but she's a 58-year-old white female, and Chadwick is wanted for cruelty to animals and resisting arrest without violence.
And deputies are still looking for 23-year-old Aisha Marie Nathan for felony to appear for vehicle theft, last known to live over in Fort Walton Beach.
Also still looking for Terry James Hennister, wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender.
Wrapping up this time is Reginald Dwayne Muse, who's kind of a longtime resident of the show. He's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, burglary, as well as aggravated stalking.
And next up, we want to say hats off to OCSO Sheriff Star Charity and all of the hundreds of students, co-workers, and even community members who all got together and created beautiful Christmas trees for local hospice patients in our area.
Absolutely, and each year the OCSO sponsors a small Christmas tree project for hospice patients, and each year hundreds of people come together to spread this symbol of Christmas care and love.
And a very sincere thank you to all the people for all their contributions, and we want to say congratulations to the winners.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our final list of wanted folks. Hopefully somebody out there might be able to tell us where they might be hiding. First up is 44-year-old Charles Anthony Brush. He's wanted for felony exploitation of the elderly or disabled, last known to live on Denton Boulevard in Fort Walton Beach.
It would be great to find Brush. I also want to find Mary Elizabeth Gibson. She's wanted for VOP for leaving the scene of a crash with injuries, and Gibson was last known to live on Silva Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is looking for Eric Markel Clyburn for felony failure to appear, last known to live out in Santa Rosa Beach.
Felipe Gonzalez Sr. is wanted for felony FTA or failure to appear for battery, as well as non-payment of child support.
37-year-old Timothy James Howard is wanted for larceny, resisting an officer in recovery of stolen property, and failure to appear for fraud, last known to live on Bearhead Road in Defuniak Springs.
We don't have a pic available of James Lee Burnett, but he's a 68-year-old black male, and he's wanted for felony failure to appear for aggravated battery.
Another one Walton County is looking for, that's 43-year-old Chad Alford for felony aggravated assault, last known to live in Ponce de Leon.
And wrapping up this list is George Monroe Emmerich II. He's wanted by the Sheriff's Office in Okaloosa County for VOP, domestic violence strangulation, and aggravated battery. Well, next up, we've got some Hot Wheels for some of our local car aficionados. Lindale, Texas resident, that is Benjamin Pate, stopped by at OCSO headquarters in Shalimar recently to give Sheriff Aiden and others a very close-up look at his first responder tribute car.
And the spruced up Corvette pays tribute to first responders everywhere and also includes a special nod to the law enforcement service of Benjamin's dad, Sergeant Benny Pate, who spent 10 years with the DeSoto Police Department.
You like your new patrol car?
I love it. I've got one too.
That's Christmas present.
I built the cars in honor and a tribute to all first responders. No matter where they serve, they will be able to find their agency within the vehicle itself.
So do you travel around the country showing it off?
I try. Anywhere I'm asked to go, I'll go.
Check it out. What's the reaction that you typically get? Just people a little...
Really amazed with the workmanship within the car that I had no part of. I just had the vision of what it would become.
Our new patrol car. Sweet. Wow. Whose is it?
It's his.
It's mine, sir.
Ben Pate.
Thank you, sir.
Moving back to Fugitives, we're going to start off with Alexis Wilmer Mondragon. He's wanted by the OCSO for sexual battery, sexual offenses against a child, and lewd and lascivious molestation.
Yeah, we're not giving up on that one. We're going to keep him on here till we find him. 29-year-old Daniel Lewis Davis is up next. He's wanted for violation of probation for burglary, last known to live in Crestview.
And this is Roderick James Rutterson Jr. Rutterson's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school and failure to appear on some traffic charges. Last known address was on Mooney Road in Fort Walton Beach.
And let us know if you know where Samuel Edward Thomas III might be located. He's wanted for violation of probation on the original charges of providing false information to a pawnbroker, false imprisonment, as well as grand theft, last known to live in Shalimar.
And this is Kristen Marie Chandler. Chandler's wanted for failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement.
And Walton County deputies are looking for 45-year-old James Anthony Williams for violation of probation for possession of controlled substance, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia.
They're also looking for Stephen Charles Briley, who's wanted for VOP for grand theft and uttering a forged instrument, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Tony Wayne Polland was last known to live in Freeport. He's wanted for failure to appear for criminal mischief, burglary, and theft.
Angel Lewis Trowery does not have a picture available for us to show you, but he is a 37-year-old black male, and he's wanted by the Crestview Police Department for aggravated stalking. Trowery was last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
Cole Rutland Graninger, he's wanted for violation of probation for aggravated stalking and burglary.
And wrapping up today's list is Timothy Tyler Turner. Again, no photo available for Turner, but he's a 30-year-old white male, and he's wanted for sexual battery and lewd and lascivious molestation. Turner's last known address was in Baker. And now we want to show you some intruders on a Destin dock. These are some guys or gals with slick back hair who were spotted on a home's video surveillance trespassing around 1:45 in the morning on a dock in Destin.
Yeah, and they look innocent enough, but we would still love to know where they came from, what they were up to, and in the meantime, we hope that they stay safe, and we're loving those little paw prints. And since we're coming up on 2023, we usually kick into high gear for our annual fundraiser for Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers, and that is our crawfish boil. And we have set the date this year. It's going to be Saturday, April 15th, and it's going to be at the same place, Uptown Station. And we are currently looking for sponsorships. So anybody that may be interested, you can check out our website. We're going to have all the information there soon. It's always a good time. Of course, we have the sheriff's office comes out there with a canine. They usually bring a boat. And all the other law enforcement agencies participate as well. But it's good time, it's good food, family fun, but most importantly, you're supporting Crime Stoppers, which a lot of people don't know. We're not supported by taxpayer dollars, so we rely a lot on fundraising and donations. So make sure you mark your calendars. You're not going to want to miss this year's event.
And also, I think people need to keep in mind how successful the Crime Stoppers program is. And you can thank yourselves for that because of all the donations
Absolutely.
and sponsorships have helped create a whole climate of success, because this is really a Crime Stoppers program that gets things done.
Yes, it is.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Okaloosa Eye on Crime. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.